Arts Commission, and welcome to the quarterly business meeting on Friday, March 7th at the Columbus Visitors Center. We have a few guest speakers for us this morning. First up, we have, I just filed through a few slides, sorry. Erin Hawkins from the Columbus Visitor Center.
Morning. Welcome all of you individually as you came in. So a welcome for me might be a little redundant. I am the director of partnerships here at the Visitor Center. I have a really fun job. We're so happy to have you in the building. The Visitor Center is the destination marketing organization for Bartholomew County. We are very close partners with the Columbus Area Arts Council. Do a lot of work with them and appreciate your partnership with the Arts Council. Make yourselves at home here. Our offices are right down the hall. If anybody needs anything, there's a big kitchen. Also, if anybody needs to step out and take a phone call, we have extra office, a vacant office that you're welcome to use, just through the double doors by the restroom. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, it's the gift shop.
Yeah. Next up, Brooke.
Yes, hi, my name is Brooke Hawkins. Yes, we are sisters and we get to work together all the time. I'm the executive director of the Columbus Area Arts Council and the Region 9 Arts Partner with IAC. So thrilled to see all of your faces this morning. And, you know, I guess there are a lot of things and that I know oftentimes working in the arts can be a thankless job, but the example that the IAC sets for us, whether it's through how to make programs more accessible or equitable, or how to develop a framework for a program, or you know, how to prioritize things for our organization. You're just such a great example. And so regardless of funding and changes that may be coming in the future, there's so much value in the work that you all do and the example that you've set within the state. And so I thank you for that very much. So.
Brooke, thank you. So to not let it be thankless. Thank you. But also, it's been, I mean, it was really nice yesterday to be at Elwood Staffing and to see their art collection and to be in a community that really values art in the way that Columbus does. The public art is fantastic, and even the art in this building is great. So thank you for the work that you do.
Yes, thank you. And I will introduce Eric Fry, who is the Executive Director of Administration for the City of Columbus. Thank you.
I am not related, just so you know. But I am good friends with them. No, on behalf of the city of Columbus and the mayor, who couldn't be here today, but asked me to speak, I just want to say welcome. Not only spend money in the gift shop, but it's great businesses downtown, very kindly if you can. I will say, I have had the pleasure in a previous job to work with Maya and the commission and really appreciate what you do to make communities better, to enhance the opportunity to engage in art in communities is so important. And I've seen that in rural communities and I see it here in Columbus. What I think makes Columbus so special is the partnerships, the way we work together. You got to see a little bit of that last night, Martha and how we had an individual in our community decide to step up and engage the philosophy that Columbus is so famous. I don't know that I need to tell you a lot about Columbus. You know about the art and architecture, but I can tell you that I'm just excited to have you here. Just a little aside, my wife served on the commission for a few years under O'Bannon, and so she educated me on the importance not only of the commission and what you do. And if there's anything you need from the city of Columbus, please don't please reach out. We're here to support you and what you're doing. And thank you for your partnership. You're part of our team and we are better for it. Thank you. Welcome
Thank
to
you,
Columbus.
thank you. All right, next up, Austin, if you would do the roll call.
Absolutely. We'll start with our commissioners who are present. Raina Bradley,
And here.
Chad Bolser. Present. Dave Heist,
Present.
Greg Hull. Here. Lori McRobbie,
Present.
Jake Oakman,
Here.
Kelsey Pieper,
Present.
Azizi Arlington Slocum,
Present.
Renee Thomas,
Here.
Ann Valentine,
Here.
Scott Wiley.
Present.
And our members on Zoom, I believe it's just Walter Kanabi.
Here.
All right, we'll go to our IAC. Jordan Adams,
Jordan Adams, Artist Services Program Manager.
Eric Ashby,
Eric Ashby, Director of the Program.
Connie Braun,
Bonnie Braun, Marketing and Communications Director.
Lydia Campbell Mayer,
Lydia Campbell Mack, Community Services Manager.
Maya Michelson,
Maya Michelson, Executive Director.
Stephanie Fendler,
Stephanie Finley, Financial Operations Manager.
Gwendolyn Pickett,
Gwendolyn Pickett, Communications Manager.
and Andre Zangchanera, Deputy Director, Chief of Staff. Our RAP partners who are present will do interview first, Sherry Wright,
You're Sherry Wright, Region 6.
and on Zoom, Kayla Myers,
Kayla Myers, Region 2.
and our special representative present, John Kay.
John Kay, Traditional Arts Indiana.
I believe that is everybody, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, you've been provided the agenda and the minutes from our December 6, 2024 meeting. Does anyone have any changes or corrections to make? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion to approve and seconded, please call the roll.
Right, Raina,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kelsey,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Renee.
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Walter.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is our consent agenda. I will read the items that are on the consent agenda. Items submitted for commission approval, fiscal year 25 year-to-date financials, WIP Exchange Lab Selection Authority, Creative Business Strategy Selection Authority, reports for review, Arts Trust Report, Communications Report, Staff Updates and Activity Report, External Partnerships Update, Creative Community Pathways Update, Lifelong Arts Libraries Memo, and Artsy Grant Memo. Are there any items anyone from the commission would like to pull out of the consent agenda to move to the regular agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Raina,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Dave, Greg,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kelsey,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Renee,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now the more interesting part of our agenda. John for the Traditional Arts Indiana presentation.
Got to be faster than I thought. Again, I'm John Kay. I'm the Director of Traditional Arts Indiana. I've been in this post for 20 years this year, getting ready to be 21. It's been my life's work doing this. I'm also the Executive Director of Arts and Humanities at Indiana University right now. I say that just to be sure. And so I really believe that Traditional Arts Indiana is in a good spot as a partnership between the Indiana Arts Commission and the Indiana University. We have an internationally known folklore program where our students come from all around the world to study with us. And I think that the Indiana Arts Commission has really been a beacon and a light within the arts community, not just here in Indiana, but nationally in its work, and I'm appreciative of it all. I had hoped to come to speak to you about our apprenticeship program. We have selected 7 apprenticeship teams, one more than what we probably have funding actually to do, but we love the work we do so much, we will find it. And we also have 3 heritage fellowships that we do. We haven't secured the contracts yet, so I don't want to announce those at this point. But I will say we have folks from Scott, Vanderburgh, Allen, Jackson, Marion, Monroe, Whitley, Vanderburgh County, all being represented, some of which are very lowly served arts communities that we're really excited to do that. The traditions include everything from blackpick guitar to restoration woodworking, Miami, traditional Miami, plant knowledge, elm bark basketry. Also includes a 5th generation rag rug weaver teaching the 6th generation, which I'm really excited about. Chinese orchestra, capoeira, Angola, and lowriders. So it's quite a diverse apprenticeship lineup. Our fellows include 2 weavers from 2 very different traditions, as well as a Chinese seal carver, an ancient art form of carving. The seals are the chops that are used to stamp insignias. And this is a man who studied with the masters when he was growing up in China, and is now has a whole team of apprentices that he's been working with here. And so I'll be excited to tell you the story about our Heritage Fellows as well as those. I could not remember whether I gave these to you last time or not. Did you all receive these? Okay.
Pretty sure. I think
think-
that looks very familiar.
Okay, I will leave them here. We would have just had them off the presses when I passed them out last time. But those are examples of the types of artwork that art forms that we work with and the traditional artists that we work with. I also wanted to take this time, I passed around a booklet. In addition to the work that we're contracted to do with Traditional Arts Indiana through the Indiana Arts Commission, we really try to serve all the aspects of building traditional arts. And so we've been working closely with the Arts Commission on various aspects of creative aging. And I've been working closely with Stephanie Haynes, who sadly is leaving us. But we're finishing up the writing of a resource guide that probably won't be too dissimilar from this for the Indiana Arts Commission. This is one that we made following up on our Memory, Art, and Aging Guide, which we did focused on artists living in South Central Indiana. This one is one that we did for artists living in kind of the central Indiana area, focused on older adults with the idea of highlighting the ways that older adults adopt, revive, maintain traditional practices as a way of encouraging well-being, not just in their own lives, but in their community lives. So I wanted to share that with you. In addition to that was funded through a grant from the Allen Whitehill Clues Foundation. We received an $88,000 grant from them. We also have received a $45,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to do the kind of distribution of these and workshops related to these, and to continue our work in the Chin and Chinese American communities in central Indiana. So we're really excited to do that. Why did you throw out numbers and grants from other places? I did that to say we could not do this if it wasn't for the Indiana Arts Commission. It's the fact that you give us this charge and that you fund us to do things like the apprenticeship programs and the Heritage Fellowship programs that allows us then to leverage additional dollars and connections here in Indiana through foundations, but also to the National Endowment for the Arts and to other funders. And I just wanted to make sure you knew how appreciative we are of the fact that, not just the fact that the money that we received from you, we're able to distribute most of it directly out to artists and communities around the state. But we're able to leverage that then to do additional work that ultimately artists that we identified through the Everyday Arts and Aging Project ended up finding their way into Heritage Fellowships and find their way into apprenticeship programs. And so it's a way for us to kind of keep seeding the work. So it's very symbiotic. I wasn't told how much time I have. I can stop there or I can say.
You got a couple more minutes.
I would, also, I told you last time about the, two things that we did, the Culture Carry program with the Chin basket makers. We continue to work with them. In fact, they'll be coming to campus, in a couple of weeks, along with several other arts and aging artists, who we're featuring as part of the Art and Science of Aging Conference at Indiana University. And we're having an exhibit based upon the booklet that I just passed around that will be at the Cook Center. You met last time I was with you, I don't think it was the last meeting you had, Keith Rubel. We've just arranged, the exhibit is opening in September for the bowl viewers. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get bowl viewers who are in their 80s and 90s to the Renwick Gallery in Washington DC. I think I'm gonna have to get a van and drive them myself. In addition to that, in the past years, our documentary film, which I hope at some point I'm able to show to you all. The Net Makers, it chronicles the story of two net makers who probably a decade ago were maybe the last makers of hoop nets in southern Indiana. And now we have them work with apprentices, but it tells the story of not just the tradition of net making, but the idea of wanting to pass it on to the next generation, as well as environmental crises, the impact of the Asian carp. We were able to do that with funding from the Indiana Humanities. And I'm really thankful to them for their support as well. I'm happy to take any questions, concerns. I will say as I close, let somebody have something. Our contract, our MOU at the university runs out in July 1 of this year. We're hoping that we're able to secure that contract, that MOU again. And that really hinges on a whole variety of funding lines and concerns. But the fact that I can count on the commission's support is really important at this time. I know that you'll be facing lots of hard decisions in the future, but I wanted to do this kind of laundry list as a way of saying, I think we're a good investment. And I would love to talk with you more about how we're trying to serve the state. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I did bring more catalogs and more apprenticeship booklets if you want to take them back to your communities and share them with artists or elders.
If I could, I just want to say, thank you, John, a couple of things, just a bit of table setting, which I probably should have done ahead of time, and that is National Endowment has for many years prioritized or provided funding to us through our state arts partnership grant with some designated pots of funds for specific purposes. And one has been folk life, folk and traditional arts. And yeah, I see it's unusual amongst state arts agencies in that we provide those folk life services through a partner. In this case, Indiana University, and this partnership's been going on for 30 years. For us, it's been a fantastic partnership that has allowed us to leverage the funds that we provide through the NEA that we match in additional state funds to impact folk life in a way that our other state agencies around the country. So we're so appreciative of Traditional Arts Indiana and that they've allowed us to make possible. Second thing I want to say is a shout out to John and a shout out to Jordan in that John heard from commissioners back year and a half ago, encouraging him to think about diversifying how we think about apprenticeships and who's in that pool. And I'm so delighted to know that we've got a lowrider team as part of our potential apprenticeship partners. And I want to give a shout out to Jordan, who I know she's helped work with John to think about who else is out there in the non-traditional apprenticeship space. So shout out to both of them, but I wanted to make sure the commissioners were aware that you you brought that conversation forward and it's happening. So thanks to you for advancing the conversation. So that's all.
Great work, thank you. Next up, committee reports, starting with Committee on the Future. Andre, staff update.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're going to start with congratulating Eric Ashby, our new director of programs. Eric will be taking on the role that Paige left in September of last year. Yeah, so congratulations, Erin, looking forward to your new chapter. We also want to thank Stephanie Haynes for her service of 8 years to the commission. She left as of, a few days ago. On March 5th, Stephanie was instrumental in again synonymous to lifelong arts, the partnership with arts in education, creative aging, everything else, poetry allowed, right? Stephanie has been instrumental, so she will be greatly missed, and we wish her best of luck in her success. I did fail to mention before that for Eric's former position, the grants and research manager, that position has been transitioned to the data and grant systems manager. We are currently interviewing for that. We've got 5 finalists right now, and Eric and I will be sitting with those finalists next week. And hopefully have somebody in place by the next 2 p.m. Any questions about staff updates? Great, thank you. Moving then forward to commissioners update.
So we want to thank Sophia and Mark, who have, I know you guys all received an email, who have stepped off the commission, and appreciate their service and their time with us. And we are in the process, again, everyone knows we're in a new administration, and so we are navigating the process as we speak about appointments, new appointments and reappointments and so forth. So
I would like to remind us all that you serve until replaced.
exactly. So here. Yes, yes.
Don't keep on keeping.
Yes, exactly. And we'll be announcing the upcoming meeting dates at the end of this meeting, so everybody can mark the calendar. Nobody's going anywhere until reappointments or new appointments are made. So seriously. We had Alan Platt serve for almost a year until his replacement. So happy to do it, by the way. So anyway, just FYI, again, thank you to Sophia for your service.
Yes, thank you. All right. Andre, first look at the budget. I just preface it just to say, I appreciate the staff bringing this for us as just as a point of fact for us. I really appreciate the work that the staff has done to give us clarity on what those options might be, rather than in June, we find out what the budget was and then just have to react. And that way it's very proactive and thoughtful work that you guys have done, and looking forward to learning more in this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're going to start over with fiscal year 26, a little bit of a preamble with this. Know that the state fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. State budget is, in terms of the assumptions for the legislature, we're going to take over what the look is for that right now. So as proposed by Governor Braun and the Indiana General Assembly, our budget is a 33% reduction, which translates to $1.72 million overall to the agency appropriation. This is taking back the agency to fiscal year 17 budget levels, just to put a little bit of framework of what's happening. Then on the federal side, we're also expecting possibly a reduction. We're going to be in this scenario of translating what the reduction might be and putting the federal fiscal year 2022 funding, which brings us down to 12% or closer to $125,000 reduction from the NEA grant. Additionally, we are also trying to reduce a little bit of the draw that we did for the cultural trust, about closer to $4,000 reduction for the FY25 allocation. A reminder that the cultural trust, it is funded by the license plate sales that we do, and that is supported by the interest of that trust. In addition, we also have a 2% management reserve holdback from state budget agency. That was directed to fiscal year 25. We'll hear more at the beginning of fiscal year, but we're not expecting it to be more than 2%. So assumptions of what we are right now. We talked about the budget reductions from the governor's side on your left side. We're talking about different scenarios over here as well. We're not asking the commissioners to choose a scenario. This is just alternatives and options that we have available to see what happens depending on what we hear from the federal government and what we hear from the state legislature. So in the first scenario, we see again that 33% reduction. We see the same amount of federal funding from the NEA as last federal fiscal year, and the remaining amount, and that yields a 57% on our core grant investment. A reminder for people online and people who are new to the commission, our core grant programs is our art operating support and our art project support. Scenario B brings that too, but it just sees that information in terms of going back to the federal fiscal year 21 budget, which is $912,000, and that yields a 56% for our core grant program. And then Maya and I came up with a scenario C, keeping everything constant, but then reducing that reduction in core grants program to 51%, which is what we currently have in federal fiscal year 25 right now, or fiscal year 25, sorry. And be able to again utilize that extra additional 5% to distribute it to the remaining programs that the agency have. Because again, we're taking from the core grants programs to fit it over the different programs that the agency have. So that's an overview of the revenue assumptions that we have so far as of the 3rd of March. So we're looking at a little bit of the exceptions assumptions. We're going a little bit slight increase on our point one. Point one is personnel, salaries, and fringe benefits, just to keep up with the actuals that were for fiscal year 25. We're looking at about a 50% reduction on our contractor and professional services, 0.3 from last fiscal year. And then also looking at reducing 28% from our administration and other operating costs of 0.9. Again, needs to come from somewhere. Those are places that we can take those cuts as much as possible without affecting the service that we do for our grantees and our constituents. So taking a look at then what those reductions look in the core grant expenses assumptions, we're looking at scenario A, 25% reduction, and it just increments 5% each on those different scenarios. Same thing with the APS and also with the RAP, AOS, and APS reduction. What happens so far over here?
Just a quick question about the cultural trust. Is that what we take that at completely at our discretion?
That's correct.
So what you're recommending is your view fiscally sound, but theoretically, we could not take any reduction there or increase it.
Correct. And right now, it's about a $400,000 balance on that trust right now, based on the interest of the sales, but we also want to keep some balance amount on that one, so that was, we're keeping it up at that 120. Any additional questions? Okay. So on the expenses assumption, again, we're looking at 0.7 is our overall grants amount, so we're looking at 195 fewer organizations funded if we needed to make that cut on 0.7. So that means a 56% decrease in rural investment will be about 23 counties that will be affected. If, again, we're looking at comparison of what we did in fiscal year 17 to what we were able just to do in fiscal year 25. It's important, and it's a limits our ability to be able to do that award impact throughout the state. So what's next with the budget right now? The budget as it is right now, HB 1001, is right now in the Senate chamber. It has been assigned to the Appropriation Committee. It hasn't been assigned yet for a reading for that committee yet. After that, it goes to the second reading and then a third reading by the Senate chamber by April 18. Goes to the conference committees or goes to the chambers, voted by each of them, and then sent for Governor Braun for signature. And Maya's gonna give us a little bit now updates about the NEA.
Yes. First, before I talk about the NEA, are there questions first for Andre? Right.
I know I think we talked about this in committee, but we've shared this information with partners outside of this, just so that everyone can be prepared and planning.
Yes, we've talked to the regional partnership about it, they are aware, because obviously they will be impacted and as well as the communities in the region, so they have been, yes, thank you, yeah, thank you. And there are, and we can dive into this now, or obviously this will be a big question that will be happening on the staff level, which is, do we go wide, do we go narrow related to, investments? Do we fund a lot with a little, which is how we've handled it in the past, or do we continue to focus on making an impact with your awardees potentially, and all of that is subject obviously for discussion on stuff. I will say that from a philosophical standpoint, which is why we added the scenario C, that we're doing great work in other areas outside our core programs, in communities and in our services, and it's important to keep the momentum of that work going. So in the past, when we have suffered a significant fiscal setback, our tendency has been to just clear the decks largely and really fund those two core programs sort of to the exclusion of everything else. Really, that would not be my recommendation and would not be my preference. And so we'll be going into these discussions with the firm commitment that we need to keep all the areas of work that we're doing going. And everyone's gonna need to take some reduction, but no one area would suffer disproportionate amount of hardship. So anyway, that's kind of how we're going into it. How that affects individual awards, we'll still be sorting that. We've not, our application deadline just passed on Tuesday, and we'll hear from Eric what demand is looking like. So we're gonna have to balance all of those considerations and discussion. So I want to share one more number before I do the NEA update, and that is currently, state of Indiana is investing 76 cents per person. This would take us to 50 cents per resident, for the votes in the state. So just one more number to put in the context there. And that would put us, right now, we're in the top and the bottom tier of states related to per capita investment in the arts. We would solidly be anchoring the bottom tier among
Say
states.
those numbers again, make sure I'm right.
76 cents per Hoosier, the arts in the state, arts and creativity in the state, in all the ways that we talk about it. This, as it stands, would be 50 cents. So it's a significant increase. Yeah, yes, it is, yeah. If that number's in conversation with people, absolutely.
Puts us, as you say, at the bottom.
Yeah, I did not have a chance to look, our National Assembly of State Arts Agency, our member organization, does an annual sort of assessment, and I didn't have a chance to look this morning, but I feel fairly confident we're gonna be posted on.
Thank you.
And are the budgets typically approved as submitted?
They'll change a little. I mean, they'll change. It'll change. It'll behind the doors during conference committee.
So if I could, I'd like to talk a little bit about what's happening at the National Endowment for the Arts. I'm gonna stay primarily focused on the budget piece of it. And that is, that obviously impacts our budget as well, because right now we get slightly more than $1 million from the NEA. We've got a couple of forecasts ranging between $900,000 and $1 million from the NEA. Federal budget spending expires next Friday. So there will either be a government shutdown or some sort of continuing resolution, hopefully on the 14th. I was on a call with the National Endowment on Monday. The sense at the moment is that we'll get a continuing resolution. If we get a continuing resolution past April into the fall, which again is the best case scenario. The NEA's council, which is similar to this body, meets at the end of March, and they would approve our state arts partnership awards, and we would be notified of that in April, which is how it generally has gone. That's the cadence. Based on information we received from the NEA on Monday, should there be a continuing resolution passed that keeps the NEA funding at the level it is currently at, we might actually see a little bit of a bump. But we're not going to obviously know that until we understand what the status is. So obviously a lot of balls in the air right now. There's little more uncertainty around federal funding than there has been in the past. Yeah. We are we're monitoring all things in all directions. And again, once the session, we generally know our federal funding before the budget session ends. And so hopefully by the end of April, we will have all the pieces, with the exception of the cultural trust, decision that we will need to make decisions related to the budget. There have been times, this won't happen, that the General Assembly did not finalize a budget and had to go into special session. I do not.
Typically does not happen.
I do not anticipate that at all. Same party. So we should have everything we need by the end of it. So that's kind of what's happening sort of federally as it relates to our budget.
Before we go to the next, I just want to thank you and the staff. It is difficult to sit in the uncertainty, and so I just commend you all on being thoughtful and laying out scenarios and just going with what we know. And the unpredictability in a lot of ways is very challenging. So thank you for your approach to all of this. I really appreciate it. As a commission, this is the best we can do at the moment. So thank you.
And I shout out to the team. We've had thoughtful conversations. We are thinking about our year-end spending, trying to position ourselves in a way that helps us maybe in the future and so forth. So we are laser focused on this. Yeah, so thank you for that. Big shout out to Andre for putting all these scenarios together. I want to say just one more thing about the NEA. It'll be very brief in that you may have heard conversations around NEA compliance requirements for grantees. And those conversations are continuing. There are lawsuits, there are all sorts of activities that are happening around compliance for federal executive orders that we are monitoring on the federal level. We will find out when we receive our state partnership agreement from the NEA, what compliance requirements there might be for us as a subrecipient of federal dollars. At this moment, there are no compliance requirements on the federal side that will keep us from doing the work that we are doing in the way that we are doing it, with the commitment we are doing it with. We are monitoring the situation, obviously, and we will have more updates as we receive that state agency partnership agreement. So that's all I'll say about that. We are obviously paying attention to the situation very closely, lots of phone calls, lots of meetings and so forth. So that's all I want to say about that. But just know that we're monitoring the situation and our intention is a commitment to continue to do the work that we do.
Okay. Calendar year 25 agency goals. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to start the conversation with our calendar year goals by prefacing some information. As you are aware, right? Governor Braun came in the new administration and consolidated all 50 plus state agencies into 8 verticals. The Indiana Arts Commission is now part of the Commerce vertical under Secretary Adams. So we're taking this approach for calendar year 25 goals in part of that. So keep that in mind. So our first calendar year goal is strengthening partnerships to drive community and economic development. So again, we try to figure out how does the Arts Commission fit within this Commerce vertical and how do we want to implement and make ourselves relevant to the work of our vertical. So that means understanding that arts is a powerful tool for economic growth, workforce development, and quality of life. It's also aligning with the Commerce vertical and integrating the arts into a statewide economic strategy, expanding partnerships with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, workforce development, small businesses center, and also collaborating with small businesses, local government to embed arts into their community planning, which Maya has been fantastic, amazing with that through the Lilly Endowment Partnership right now already. And it's also we're gonna measure this goal, by measuring the impact of partnerships, joint initiatives, and then stakeholder feedback. Thank you, Delight. For goal 2, we're gonna be expanding the resources to strengthen the arts workforce. What does that mean is that the creative workforce feels Indiana's economy and we must invest in their success. It's also enhancing the research to better understand the arts workforce impact, providing business, financial literacy and career training for artists. And then partnering a mentorship, apprenticeship, and workforce pipeline programs. And we'll be measuring this goal for economic and tech analysis, training participation, and then the workforce retention. Goal 3, it's amplifying the impact of our programs with data-driven storytelling. So we're gonna be impacting for more engaging and accessible visualizations for our agency. So you're gonna see a refreshed dashboard that's coming up soon. We're gonna also be strengthening our statewide recognition of our creative sector through targeted communication, establishing an annual report process to track and showcase our impact. And then we're gonna measure that through engagement metrics, stakeholder feedback, and media visibility. And our last goal, sorry, Anne.
I like 3.
I know, gotta
All right.
add a new one this year. We're gonna deepen community engagement through arts-based connections. That means strengthening community relationships with meeting people where they are, not having them come to us, but meeting them where they are. Which Lydia and the rest of the team have been amazing at going over and visiting and sitting down with those target accounts to meet them where they are. We're gonna be increasing the site visits to those priority counties to build local arts network. We're gonna be hosting regional gatherings, retreats, or field trips for artists and organizations, expanding our digital tools with artists and communities. And we're gonna be measuring that through site visit data, public engagement levels, and stakeholder feedback. So overall, our 2025 year goals are gonna be partnership, workforce development, storytelling, and community connections. By partnering across the sector, we're gonna position ourselves as a driver of community for economic and community growth. By building resources and support, we ensure the creative workforce and their success. By amplifying our data-driven storytelling, we increase visibility and engagement. And by connecting with artists, we strengthen the quality of life for all Hoosiers. Any questions about the goals?
Just to comment, thank you. I think it's smart to recognize the change in administration means an adjustment to what our goals are and done a nice job of that and it has to be more, one more is the right shot to land on. Thank you. All right.
I want to thank Anne's flexibility on
Oh, boy. All right, KPIs, Eric.
Hey, morning, everyone. Here to talk a little bit about KPIs. These are the performance indicators connected to our strategic framework and the impacts that we're hoping to achieve with that framework. And so the specific impact, I'm just going to give an update on a couple that we actually have updates for. And one of those is Indiana's artist building for the successful careers in the state. And one of the things that we look at in this category is technical assistance. This is staff time and regional arts partner time with grant applicants, with organizations in the community, working on applications, referrals, long-term planning. And with this, over the past quarter, we had the opening of our 2 biggest programs, project support and organization support. And the regional arts partners are really instrumental in making that program happen. And as you can see, they delivered over 800 hours of technical assistance for those 2 programs. Just in 1 quarter alone, in addition to 57 hours of staff technical assistance. So over the course of a year, you can probably see us turning the corner on 2,000 hours in technical assistance, which if you were to translate that into a monetary sum would be a lot of money, but also more importantly, it's a lot of relationship building. And you're going to see some of the fruits of that work when I talk about the application numbers later. But this is a really important point, not just for context on how much 800 hours is, that'd be flying around the world 16 times. So it's a lot of time. We're really appreciative of the regional partnership for all the time that they put in to make those programs happen and just the time connecting with the organizations in their region, not just in their county. So this is really important, and technical assistance is one of those places that regardless of where budget situations end up, showing up for arts organizations and artists in the community is really important, and we see staff and partners continue to do that despite the uncertainty. So really appreciative of that work. Also want to give a big shout out to Commissioner Wiley for providing us the info on the great work that Pro Bono Indiana is doing, and who provided 70 hours of technical assistance in 2024 through the artist hotline that they have. And so really thank you, Scott, for all the work that him and his team.
Note how none of this question is calculation of 15 times around. It's a level of credibility kept.
Yeah, the next one I have here is related to Impact 5, which is broad recognition of arts and creativity's value for Indiana. And the update here is around the ready investments in cultural planning. And to date, there's been $300,000 dispersed as part of the cultural planning efforts. We've really started that work in earnest, and Maya's been plugged into that process, and we've been also plugging the regional partners into that process, and so we're excited to see that work continue. And the other thing that we look at are non-arts organization and artist grantees. These happen through things like Creative Convergence and Every County Funded, some of the lifelong arts programming with libraries. These are organizations that aren't your typical arts organizations, embedding creativity in the work that they do. And we continue to see increases in that year over year. And once we have funding recommendations in June, we'll have an update on this number too, because we also see a lot of non-arts organizations in the project support program as well. So excited to see work happening in this area as well. That's it on KPIs. Any questions on the KPI front?
Madam Chair, point of order, calendar year 25 goals needed to be approved by the commission.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Okay, Eric, we'll pause your next one and we will head back to
I'd like to propose that we approve.
the calendar year 25 agency goals.
The second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Raina,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kelsey,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Renee,
Aye.
and
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir, for that. Unless you got too excited about it. Okay, Eric, you're still up.
Okay. And I'll-
Keep going.
Okay, all right. We're rolling. So arts organization support, the deadline for that program goes on Tuesday, as Andre mentioned. This is our program that provides general operating support for 501c3 arts nonprofits. And what we saw this year, 267 eligible applications submitted. And that represents an 8% increase in applications from the FY24-25 cycle. This is a 2-year funding program, so applicants, the last time applicants would have applied to this program would have been in FY24, so I'll be referencing that frequently. We saw about 19% of the applicants came from rural counties, which is the same proportion that we saw in FY24-25, but I will note because we saw additional applications, we did see more in terms of accounts, more rural organizations applying to the program this year than in the previous 2-year cycle. And with 57 counties with an application, that's 62% of Indiana counties. That is a 5-county increase over the FY24 cycle. And to Andre's point about people getting out in the community, the whole staff has been doing that. And I think that shows just like that. We're seeing other counties that wouldn't normally apply in the operating support program coming into the program, which is really exciting to see. So I'll talk more about where we'll go from here next from a process wise, but that's arts organization support. Here is the application numbers broken down by region. I wanted to highlight 2 things. One is region 7. You can see that's the greater Indianapolis areas, that's Marion and the Donut counties. Ton of applications in arts organization support from that area, and that's typically what we'll see in this program. And there's actually was an 8 application increase in that region. And then also in region 12, greater New Albany area down by Madison, also saw a double application. So
Nice.
by and large, most of the regions were about consistent with where they were in FY24. With those 2 areas seeing a notable increase. So that's the regional breakdown. And then here, just to give you a sense of where that demand trend is going, it's going up and has continued to go for a while. And so this is something that will, when we talk about more budget things down the line, we're gonna have to have conversations about, but on the flip side of that, it's exciting to see the demand for this program continuing and the art sector in Indiana continuing to be strong and resilient, and providing programs and services to communities across Indiana. That's our organization support. Now I'm gonna move on to arts project support, which also had a deadline of March 4th earlier this week. This is a $4,000 grant program for short-term public-facing arts projects, has a wider funnel for eligibility. So this is 501c3 nonprofits, 501c6, tourism entities, chambers of commerce, public sector entities, schools, K through 12, and colleges and universities. And this program will be offered twice. So as I present these numbers, recognize this is only one cycle, and the whole thing's gonna happen again when we open it in July with the September deadline. So 270 submitted applications for the spring cycle alone. We're thinking maybe a little over 100, 120 for the second cycle, not sure. We had a number of people reach out that said the second cycle, which runs on the calendar year for the implementation period, would be even better for the project that they were wanting to do. Particularly for people that if they have a project happening in August or September, that is at the very beginning of the state fiscal year, the timing is a little challenging sometimes for this deadline. So it was great to see some people move into the other deadline. So we'll probably see well over 300 applications by the time we get through that fall cycle. There were 323 applications in the project support program in FY25. I expect we're going to very easily surpass that by a very big margin this year. 32% of the applicants at this deadline were rural applicants. That is a 3% increase over FY25. And by the time we get through the second cycle, I think that is going to continue to go up as well, which speaks to some of the great work that Lydia has been doing in communities across the state. 73 distinct counties with applications, which is a 2-county increase, again, seeing more counties represented in this program. The median budget size of applicants in this program is not that big, about $68,000. And so this program is serving a lot of organizations that aren't accessing a lot of other resources. If it weren't for this program, a lot of those projects in arts programming wouldn't happen. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of non-arts organizations in this program. I will note that it's a really big swath of budget sizes. There are some that are as small as a couple $1,000s and some 30 million plus budget organizations in this program. So a lot of different types of organizations apply. And to what John was talking about earlier, in terms of leveraging funding, even if we funded all the applicants at $4,000, they're still contributing an additional $4 million on top of what our investment would be. And so all that to say, when these projects are funded, the applicants are also leveraging other funding sources, whether it be from their own budgets or their own community, to also make investments in their communities as well. And so this program is a real launch pad for community investment in arts and creativity across the state. And so that's a pretty big number. Here is the regional breakdown. I didn't provide a comparison here because this is only one of 2 cycles, so it wouldn't really be useful to see the changes because they're all going to be lower, but knowing that we're going to have a second cycle here. A lot of applications in Region 7, Region 1, Region 2, which is usually what we tend to see in this program. Now I'm going to provide a couple of quick numbers with both programs combined. 82 counties, about 90% of Indiana counties had an application between AOS and APS, which is really exciting and speaks to a lot of the work that the staff has been doing with engaging with new applicants and new communities. And 537 total applications between both, and 7 of the 15 FY25 Everett County funded counties are in the applicant pool, and almost all of those 7 counties even had multiple applications. So I want to give a shout out to Lydia for all her work, not only getting those people in the pipeline, but they're also translating into these larger grant pools with projects that are ready to go. So I think that really speaks to the impact of the work in those programs in particular. So I wanted to highlight that as well. And here is the map with all of it combined. You can see Marion County with a little over 90 somewhat applications between both programs, which is generally what we see. and some of the other hotspots around, the northwest corner, down in Evansville as well, Bloomington, we'll always see it a good bit in Fort Wayne. So a lot of coverage. There's a lot of things with color on this map, meaning that we're reaching a lot of places with these programs. There's a lot of demand. So these two programs are a combined effort of a lot of people, the regional partners, the entire staff to get through these deadlines, and we've got more work to do now, but I'm really appreciative of everyone's work to get us to this point. These are no small feat to do, especially in the current environment. So really appreciative of all the work on this, and exciting to see some of these numbers and some of the relationship building come through and what we're seeing in these applications. And that's it for AOS and APS. Pause there for questions.
Just a point of clarification for those of us who need a little help with this. The cuts that we're looking at, with respect to the upcoming budget would not take effect until next year. In other words, to what extent are the projections for applications in the fall baking in people knowing that there's less money?
The budget would apply to the applications, those numbers I just talked about. That those budget cuts would apply to the people that.
So your projections are basically, it's as if we have status quo, so.
So these are the actual applicants that came in at the March
I
deadline.
understand that, but I mean, for the next.
For the fall deadline, yeah,
Fall deadline.
yeah. So we're guesstimating, I mean, our intention will be to hold some funds back, obviously, so we'll have funds for that fall cycle. Obviously, we won't know how much.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, that cycle will be, depending on what happens with the.
Will be effective,
Yes,
I
will be
guess.
effective, yes, and will be a highly competitive cycle. No question, but it's budget ready to hold, the spring cycle will also be a very competitive cycle, so it'll be, yeah.
Thank you, that was. If I get the timing.
Yeah, they'll both be FY 26, funded programs.
Great work to the staff, though. I mean, it's really nice to see the like theoretical of, we want to make sure we're getting to more communities and more applicants, to see that work that the staff is doing on the ground come to fruition in the application. So good work.
You know, one thing, if I could just say, one thing that I always try to remind myself, especially with the challenges you were describing, Mr. Robbie, is most of the time when an arts organization applies to a foundation or a funder, if you're getting to a 10 or 20%, success rate at getting funded, even with the challenges we may face, we still are a much more reliable source for many of our arts, and the wonderful thing we bring. So I just hope that brings me joy to see that even in this time, we have that many arts organizations still looking to participate and work with the Arts Commission. That's I think a real compliment to our staff and the ongoing work we're doing to reach all of them.
And everyone seems to amaze me looking at the project descriptions as they come in, just how much interesting stuff is happening all over in all the corners of the state. It's really exciting to see, so. Other comments, any other things on the AOS and APS cycle?
We'll take your next topic and then we'll take our break after that.
All right, so I'm going to talk about where we go from here, now that all the applications have been submitted, what the next steps are for those applications. So we have a lot of reviewers. We recruited those reviewers through a public input form that was up on the website, in addition to being actively recruited by IAC staff and regional arts partners. And we have 130 plus reviewers committed to get through all those 500 plus applications and provide thorough reviews and comments and scoring on all of them. We have a variety of reviewers from varying geographies and professional backgrounds, and next week we'll be training them on how to review for these programs, talking about the review criteria and all the things that go along with being a reviewer for the IAC. Those reviewers will then gain access to their queue of applications to review. They will review those from about mid-March here until the end of April, and they will score and provide comments based on the evaluation criteria. And then the week of April 21st and then through the 30th, there will be AOS panels. And we'll make sure that you all have the links and opportunity to join those discussions. That will be where the reviewers are sitting down to talk about their evaluations of the applications, talk about their comments and discuss those as a group. And so those are open to the public. They will not be recorded, so you need to join in live time to see it, but we will share those links out with you if you would like to join. I certainly encourage you to join those conversations. So from here, we'll have a final eligibility check that our regional partners are working on as we speak. There will be the reviewer training. They'll wrap up by the week of the 28th. The score will go into the funding frameworks for organization support and project support. Those will be producing funding recommendations that we will bring to you at June for a business meeting. And then the funding notifications and reviewer comments will be shared by July 1 of 5. And that's what's next.
Just as a reminder, we are not doing panels, live panels for project support. That's a change that you approved last fall. Those reviews will be asynchronous, and those reviewers will only provide written comments in our transparent management system. So only the organizational support grant program will have a live panel meetings. And we're gonna evaluate how it goes for us. That's also a change. It's going to be much easier on staff and our regional partners to not have to do so many live panel meetings. It will allow us to focus on organizational support.
Okay, we're on a short break. We'll come back at 10:10. Thank you.
Sorry. is that-
Not Bellagio, you know, the Bellagio of India, that's what they call it here.
Shielding him.
All right, welcome back. At 10:14. We shall resume. Back to you, Eric.
Alrighty, Fellowship for Creative Teaching. This program was run by Stephanie Haynes, so I'm gonna do my best to share what she shared at the Programs Grant Services Committee. This program, recently wrapped up, kind of started a little bit in 2022 and really got going in earnest in 2023. And this is a program for educators, particularly focused on arts integration, embedding the arts with non-arts teachers. And this began in 2023 as a solution to some of the barriers ISD saw for educators applying for grants on their own, not just as a teacher just trying to apply on behalf of their district or their school, and some of the hurdles that come along with that. And so it changed into a cohort-based model, and a lot of the teachers were paired with arts organizations who help them find artists and write the grant and deal with some of the other pieces that had been barriers in the past. And we worked very closely with the cohort members to select arts partners that were in their area to be partners of a piece of this grant that involved bringing artists and sort of artists and residents into the classroom to support some of the arts integration work that was happening in the classroom. And so the past two cohorts have seen a lot of success. A lot of teachers shared excitement about this, and attendance and engagement of students have increased. There's been new partnerships formed with those organizations that they've worked with alongside those grant opportunities. And some of those relationships were also built through our Summer Institute for Creative Teaching, which won't be happening this summer, but happened the past 2 summers as a precursor to this grant, where teachers came and got to learn about arts integration, what that looks like, and some of the arts partners were also there at that conference. And so as we wrap up this program, there was the second sort of iteration of this, saw a lot of success and a lot of momentum, projects hitting the ground faster, those relationships were stronger. And wanted to highlight one of the things that came out of one of the final reports, which was a specific activity that sort of embodies some of the things that we hope to see from this program, which is one of the teachers changed a traditional written final assignment to a theater-based final that asked students to successfully navigate a German restaurant. And in that activity, the room was turned into a restaurant, and students had to accomplish 5 tasks related to the restaurant experience in German. And we're happy to report that all the students successfully got food, and people said that was actually a pretty fun final. So that's just sort of a specific example of some of the arts integration work that came out of this program. And again, a big thank you to Stephanie Haynes for her work building this program, running the Summer Institute, and seeing this program flourish. And so we'll be certainly talking about the arts learning space more in the coming months as we work on that position. And that is it for me.
Great. I love that example of the German restaurant. It's a
That's awesome.
really good illustration of how the arts can be a successful integration with us.
Yes.
Yes. That's very nice. Thank you. Jordan.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back in Columbus. We were here in 2023 for the Ormond cohort for that time. And so Lydia and I are sitting here thinking about the nostalgia of the fact that we were here then. With that being said, there is a flop on your agenda, work in progress in Ormond. I'm going to switch the sequence of those. But before I do that, I want to get into some background on artist services and what exactly my program sector is. So artist services basically provides support, resources, and funding for professional and communal development of individual artists and creative businesses. Coaching, connecting, convening, program development and management and distribution of funds. And then we're looking to partner with entities who are also interested in connecting with artists through their work in other ways. So artist services, where are we now? So we're gonna do a quick recap on our artist needs assessment, which you heard a bit about how we got to our results-based program plan and the rollout of our programs for this year to 2027. So we completed the needs assessment in fall of 2023 to spring of 2024, winter, if you're technical. But we had 11 listening sessions with 150 artists. We did a subsequent survey from the themes, pulled out from those, recordings with about 500+ responses. And the themes that emerged were networking connection, marketing and financial support and education, local investment in local artists, and then affordable and accessible space. That last one, affordable and accessible space, did fall off, as we got through the survey a little bit more, but we are exploring those in a number of ways for ready and community services as well. So, results-based programming, so we did a design consultation with Dr. Elaine Roman-Luttrell, on designing the programs that would result from those themes. We came up with 6 different programs in 2 different program suites, community building and business development, and we're taking a pilot approach to all those programs throughout the next 3 years. And so those programs are the Work in Progress Exchange Labs, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a bit, local liaisons, similar to our regional arts partners, town hall meetings, which will be a virtual communal experience, and then business development. So thinking of our creative entrepreneurs, creative business strategy series, Get It Going series, and Wing Up. So right now in 2025, we are rolling out the Work in Progress Exchange Labs and the Creative Business Strategy series. And then you can see how we're going to roll out the other 4 programs over the next 2 years as well. Keeping budgets. So quickly on ORMAP evaluation. So just as a reminder, we paused this year's cohort. We are not taking a cohort this year, but we are diving into evaluation. We have, well, before I talk about the selection of the evaluation firm, just a reminder of the evolution of ORMAP as a program. So 2018 through 2024, we had 6 different cohorts, with 2021 being a little different approach because of our pause in 2020 because of COVID. We had different local cohorts as well as a central cohort that was managed directly by IAC. Again, we're pausing this year and then bringing back in 2026 to train local liaisons to kind of reflect that 2021 model, and then 2027 return of local cohorts in one last central managed cohort by IAC as well. So we have selected the evaluator. They are Measurement Resources out of Ohio. They were recommended by Dr. Luttrell, and heavily recommended by her. And an interesting excerpt from their application materials. They said, we are experts in gathering and analyzing the best data and information and combining it with community engagement, change management, and implementation science to help initiatives better achieve their missions. We also help organizations better measure, understand, manage, and communicate their impact value to stakeholders. So initially we were doing an evaluation and redesign strategy, but right now we're doing evaluation and program impact so that we're better able to partner with external partners in our vertical, as well as external partners around the state as well, to kind of carry out those community local cohorts. The project team leads are Charlie Downer, Elizabeth Pafford, and Lisa Syriac. Elizabeth and Lisa will very much run the evaluation with their background in research and management and nonprofit management. And so we've already had a conversation with them as a team. We're really excited to get together. They were happy to pivot on the program impact portion instead of redesign. So they submitted some materials that kind of focus on that a little bit more. And we are in contracting phase with them right now as well. So they submitted also a framework and some more past experience work. So they gave us an impact report they did for the Ohio Energy Project with their energy firm for the state, kind of if you're familiar with like AES, that kind of sort of thing. And then they're very familiar with working with arts organizations. So they've done collaborative arts impact initiatives. So that is somewhat similar to ORMAP. They've worked with the entity like that before. And then Families Flourish. They have a cohort model, so they're very familiar with the cohort model and how it can evolve throughout the years. Any questions on the ORMAP evaluation before I proceed? It's a work in progress. And we'll keep you updated as we kind of dive into that evaluation a bit more. So our work in progress exchange labs, just a quick program overview of what this program is. It focuses on the need of networks and connection. Primarily emerging artists is our focus audience, but all artists are welcome. And then this is a micro supporter group across the state in 5 different regions. This is led by arts experts in different organizations, and then it's a simple 90-minute agenda format. It's simple in nature, by design. We don't want a lot of lecture content. We want them to be able to talk and discuss their artwork, freely. And then there is also a grant opportunity attached, $250 to $1,000, and that is what you approve the selection for in our programs and grants and services committee meeting. So our partners in our East region is Richmond Art Museum, Sean Dingberg and Lance Rose. Sean Dingberg won our Governor's Arts Award this past session, so very interested in working directly with artists to carry out their artwork. Lance Rose, the education director, they're connected to a high school, so he's very instrumental in the student work there. So they're very familiar with one-on-one work with artists. Greencastle Arts Council, they are a volunteer-led organization in Greencastle. A lot of work with the Putnam County Mural Project, as well as a lot of work with the Paul Arts community as well. And then New Harmony Project, they are an Indianapolis-based organization. However, they take artists down to New Harmony to do some residency work, to kind of work on their plays as they write them. With that being said, I feel like we have a great group of arts experts who are very committed to individual artist development. So I'm very excited to work with them all. We are still securing the North and Central partners. And so as we secure those, we'll bring them on in a phase. But because this is a pilot program, it's kind of great to be able to work with these three first before we dive into those North and Central, and we'll kind of have things a little bit more solidified then. So I did get to attend the February labs, and they were all great. Greencastle had a special place in my heart. We had about 10 to 12 artists attend, and we heard everything from somebody attended who has recorded an album, but he is now in the mixing and mastering phase of the album. And so he's looking to get advice on who to work with. He needs funding for that. And so he's kind of in the phase of like, okay, I don't know what to do now. I recorded it. Somebody help me in the next phase. We have somebody who was a past Warmapper who is a jeweler who works with family heirlooms. So she does a lot of bracelet making and ring making with spoons, but she's moved on to belt buckles, and is also trying to create glasses with silver hardware from different platters, but is also stuck because she doesn't know how to make it not too heavy for the face. We've had somebody else who is a recent MFA graduate, is a sculptor and has heavy body bust that she's working on. She has a show at ArtLink in Fort Wayne, but she is now like, I can't sell these. This is great because it's exhibition work, but nobody wants a full body woman in their house. So how do I translate this into interior design? So we got to all talk about their work and offer suggestions to one another. It was an intergenerational experience. Somebody from DePaul talked about their gallery representations they once had. They would sell their artwork to different banks, but that model has kind of subsided, and she's now stuck about what she does now. But the lady I just talked about with her bodies of sculptural work, she was like very interested in how she secured a gallery representation in the past. So that exchange and connection was very interesting to see. So New Harmony, we had about 2 people in that one, and that was people coming back home after being out in California. And was like, I don't know what to do now. California pace versus Indiana pace is very different. What do I do now? And then Muncie, the charm of Muncie is very interesting. They are all very much wanting to work together on events with one another and selling their work there. So the charm and personality of each place is interesting to see, but they're all working together to kind of get their artwork and creativity in a progression. And so it was lovely to connect with them all. And that is it for me. Any questions on work in progress steps? Thank you, guys.
Lydia, you're up next.
Good morning. Good morning. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about community services and very much inspired by Jordan's very nice presentation. Just give you a little bit of a background, a framework so that you understand kind of what the portfolio of community services entails. My role has only been around for a year, thanks to budget support from the General Assembly in fiscal year 2024. This was a new role that was created for the Arts Commission. And it was designed specifically to work with communities, particularly rural communities, and counties that were not receiving support through our core art grant programs, so arts organization support, arts project support. And really designed to facilitate access, build relationships in those communities. So kind of in the suite of services is cultivating these new and expanded relationships. I do a lot of talking, phone calls and visits, I like it. And developing strategies, programs, assessments for serving communities. Communities can be very broad, so they can include municipalities, they can include nonprofits and civic organizations, they can include cultural districts. They can also include just individuals who are volunteering their time and support to promote the arts. I do a lot of work kind of advancing and communicating the value of creative community development. People are very interested in quality of life and also interested in economic development through the arts. I provide a lot of technical assistance, as Eric was talking about in grant writing. People call me about like, hey, I want to do a public art project. How do I find muralists? People call me to say, hey, how else can I find some money? How do I write this grant? And things like that. I try to do, because I'm trained as an ethnographer, thank you, John, to be a stakeholder, to really listen to people's feedback in the design of our programs and services. And so what you'll see next is a little bit of a result of that feedback. And then I do a lot of kind of capacity building services, which you'll hear about shortly from Creative Convergence as an example. And then also kind of implement these low barrier grant programs called Every County is Funded. I do want to just indulge a little bit and say I was on a phone call this week with a librarian from Pike County, Stephanie Rollins, and they are one of our target counties this year that have not received core grant programs. And she explained to me the reason was that they used to have this really awesome group of 3 older adults who were leading the arts in their county. They all passed away during the COVID pandemic. So there is stuff happening. There are people who want this. There are people who want the support. And we're just trying to make that happen by actually kind of listening and reaching out. So it's important work to me. I am going to ask that we consider making an Every County Funded Framework amendment. And as I said, this is a result of listening and working with communities. As a reminder, Every County Funded is a low barrier grant program. We have 15 counties in Indiana for fiscal year 2025 that did not receive core grant programs. And what I've done is kind of work with, and not just me, it's also the regional art partners. Sherry's really good at this, identifying allies and partners, going and visiting communities, reaching out, sending emails, making phone calls, all of that. And then providing them with these kind of easier access grants, providing a lot of technical assistance. Sometimes these are folks who are volunteers who have full-time jobs and then do this as just their individual passion, and helping them kind of through that grant process, get interested in familiar with our portal and so on. What I'm recommending is that we expand our grant eligibility slightly to include 50C4, 50C6, K through 12 schools, and pre-approved fiscally sponsored entities. The majority of this mirrors and matches our arts project support grants, which the long-term goal for this low barrier grant program is people move then into the core grant programs. They don't rely on this as a consistent source of funding. This is absolutely a response to outreach and on the ground needs of constituents. These are real folks who want to apply for this round and who fall under some of these categories. Yeah, those are the folks that we're working with. 50C4s, I'll just recommend, just mention that these often can be Rotary clubs in counties that we're working with. This is also Community Foundation recommendations that we look at them. And fiscally approved fiscally sponsored entities, again, is in arts project support already. But these can be organizations that are totally volunteer run, that simply don't have like the human capital or economic capital to have a nonprofit organization, but are still doing this kind of public serving work. So these are the proposed amendments. I've listed them all here in red font, so you can see exactly how they are, will show up. They still need to be IRS approved tax exempt organizations. And then thank you, Eric, for adding this line there, that IAC staff may follow up, request documentation and additional information regarding eligibility. And we do hold the ability to make that final determination on their eligibility. Are there any questions about this?
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we need to approve this, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Absolutely. Raina?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
That's all I have memorized. Dave?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Jake? Kelsey?
Aye.
Azizi?
Aye.
Renee?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, and then I get to give you some nice updates about Creative Convergence. So again, this is our capacity building program that took place in Fishers, Indiana this year. It was the first time that it was our third round of this pilot, our third round of this program. And it was the first time that we actually accepted applications openly. We did an open call. It was a 2-day workshop. It included a $1,000 stipend to help the teams cover their travel expenses. And then it leads to this $10,000 grant opportunity to put what they've learned in the workshop into action in their communities. And it also includes ongoing coaching and technical assistance with our partners at Indiana Communities Institute. They're really Kara Riggleman especially has been doing additional coaching calls even further on outside of the coaching calls we have set up, which is wonderful. These teams are all cross-sector teams with intent to kind of build this convergence, right, of support. They need to include someone from local government, economic development, or the business community, someone who is from an arts or a civic organization, and really importantly, a local artist and creative on the team. This is a photo. Oh, you can't see because you can't see Susie in the. She's behind Walter, and she's. That's okay. So there's a wonderful woman they're presenting. She is a past alumna who participated in the program and then came back to present at this cohort. And she's presenting on their work in Warsaw. To support the arts, and that poster up there says artworks to drive economic growth in your community. So this was a really cool opportunity for for somebody who went through the program to come back and show what they did with the grant and kind of help inspire the current cohort. And folks said that they really liked that because they got to see themselves. It wasn't just like this obscure thing, they got to see what would happen next. Our fall 2024 Creative Convergence cohort included all of these communities: Chesterton, Michigan City, Kendallville, Mount Ayr, Tipton, Winamac, Pendleton, Franklin, Evansville, and Santa Claus. And there was laughter from Santa Claus that being sung at the event. But notably, the folks who have a double asterisk are Everett County funded communities from counties that hadn't been served through our grants, and they were also rural. And then the counties that also just have a single asterisk are rural communities based on the Purdue Extension statistics of 2020. And most of the communities had populations of less than 20,000 folks. And we've kind of reached all over. We do have a waiting list for this program too. This is another photo from the event, and this was an artist panel where we invited artists to talk with communities about how to best work with artists. And that was really enlightening for a lot of folks, and they really walked away understanding the value of the expertise of artists in Indiana. Some of the feedback from the survey that was sent out, well, the first one is actually just someone came and told it to me. Is that she said, I've done traditional economic development for years. It's been great to learn how economic development and community development can coexist. One participant said, I feel so much more confident at this training. It was beautifully done. I'll just leave it at that. And then the last person who was actually from Santa Claus, Indiana, said being an educator in the public school realm and an artist, a member of several nonprofits, I feel heard, empowered, and equipped to address the needs of our community through this program. And so these are what's happening next. So people are now moving into, as of March 1st, their implementation period. These are just a few of the ideas, or a few of the projects there, of what they're doing in Chesterton North. They're working to establish a cultural district. Michigan City, I love their project. They're developing an artist in residence program with the artists who came to Creative Convergence and doing a series of public facing events, bringing in school kids, and they got an in-kind, they leveraged their grant to get an in-kind studio rental and all kinds of cool things happening. Kendallville, I'm very, very excited about. They're one of the Every County funded grants, Every County funded communities up in Noble County. And they are doing an immersive art experience called Imaginuity. And it's inspired by the really cool work of Owl and those immersive experiences. Their idea is that they really want to bring people to Kendallville to experience what Kendallville has to offer, and they're really doing some great things. So I'm excited about their team a lot. Lots of different things happening. I just got invited to Winnemac too, where they're starting a long series of community conversations to just hear from their constituents, hear from the citizens about what they want to see in their community, and they're kicking that off this month. So all the grants were $10,000. Any questions about any of those? Yep, that's all I have to say. It's fun work and needed work.
Great, we have one here. So, we asked Jordan and Lydia to do a deeper dive than they usually would about their programs. Again, the budget request we made to the governor's office was for significant support for these particular initiatives, because obviously there are great things happening there. So wanted you to have an opportunity to sort of be refreshed and reminded of the great work that both Jordan and Lydia are doing. We talk, especially this time of year, we talk a lot about arts organization support and arts project support, because that's the two programs that, you know, have the most recent deadline. But again, wanted to make sure that you had front of mind this other great work that is happening and really critical work that's happening at the agency. In the spirit of talking about, join you to talk about other things that are happening, as you have conversations around the state about our work and our impact. Wanted to just take a couple of minutes to just sort of remind you of other work that we're doing in support of READY, which is an initiative of IEDC and the Lilly Endowment. So I'm going to just say a few words about that. Just as a reminder, we do love our acronyms in state government. It's the Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. It is a program of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, IEDC. They are in our vertical with us, in the commerce vertical. This initiative advances quality of life, quality of place, and quality of opportunity through strategic investments that make Indiana a magnet for talent and economic growth with 15 regional partners. They too have a regional partnership network, and of course, it does not align with our regional partnership network, which, just to be clear, ours has been around for decades and decades longer than it. But anyway, not bitter about that at all.
But we're also missing a number.
Yes, we are missing a number too. So they have 15, we have 11 mighty regions, and as you can imagine, they don't obviously align with each other. Now, there have been 2 rounds of READY funding provided by IEDC to these regions. READY 1 was primarily federal, in fact, it wasn't, I think, entirely federal dollars, COVID relief dollars through ARPA.
The second round is $500 million that was provided by the Indiana General Assembly in this current biennial budget period. And regions can apply for projects. They have been primarily bricks and mortar, some infrastructure, some, a few sewer systems and apartments and a variety of kinds of projects. And there have been a couple of arts and culture related projects that have happened through Ready. The Gas City Music Center up in Gas City was a Ready funded project. And then there have been a couple of historic theater rehab projects that have been funded through Ready. We were not involved and have not been involved in the vetting of projects through this particular phase of Ready, Ready 1, Ready 2, just to be clear. We often learned about them via a news release from the IEDC. So, but that was then and this is now. So we talk about what's happening now. Back, and I've mentioned this, but just want to recap. Back last January, Governor Holcomb in his State of the State address announced the largest grant that the William Endowment has made to this point, $250 million to the state via the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, to be divided into two buckets, essentially $185 million for blight reduction and redevelopment in the blighted property space, and then $65 million for arts and culture. And there was a lot of huzzah and excitement around that. And again, this funding is meant to do, at this point, to do essentially two things. Focus on accelerating arts and culture to strengthen the vibrancy of Indiana. What's actually happening in this space currently is that each of the 15 regions has received a $100,000 planning grant to do an arts and culture plan in each region. We helped vet the arts and culture professional partners who are working with these regions. Most of them are from out of state. We do have a couple of in-state partners. So each region is currently engaged in the arts and culture planning process for their region. Many of our partners are involved in that process. Artiliana, I know, Sherry and John are involved. Kayla has been involved as well. Region 1, Columbus has been very active in their regional planning process. And so that work is happening now and will continue till probably September of this year. And then once that work is largely underway, there will be an opportunity for regions to propose transformational arts and cultural projects that have been identified or daylighted through the planning process. And $60 million in essence will be utilized to fund those projects. We're supporting this by obviously riding alongside IEDC. We help select the consulting teams. We are participating to the extent possible in the public meetings, and Tom's team has done a great job in relaying opportunities for public feedback around the state for people to contribute to the planning process in their respective region. And we will also have a role in the project proposal review process. But I want to be clear that this is an IEDC initiative that we are supporting. Our philosophy is any investment in arts and culture, we'd like to see, we'd like every state agency to invest in arts and culture. So we're happy to ride alongside and provide the expertise that we can, support the process. But again, want to be clear, this is IEDC, and these projects are meant to be transformational. And so these are moonshot kinds of projects. That's what the endowment is interested in supporting, and that is what IEDC is interested in supporting. So to be clear, this funding is not meant to supplant the important work we do in supporting arts organizations in their general operating support work, as well as projects across the state. The arts projects support the $4,000 grants. So this is a yes and, not an either or. So just in this particular period, while we're talking about funding and budgets and so forth, wanted to make sure you knew when you're in conversation in your regions around arts and culture funding, that you understood kind of where the endowment and where IEDC and we're ready is sort of fitting into that sort of funding formula. Again, moonshots, which again, we're delighted to see the endowment invest in. We've never had the kind of resources to be able to consider that sort of support. So we are so excited to see this happen and very excited to see what kinds of projects emerge as part of the planning process. And at the end of the day, at some point before the end of the year, we will have 15 regional arts and culture plans to sift through as an agency, figure out how we're gonna respond to this. Obviously the endowment, there'll be an opportunity to leverage the planning process to apply for project, but how are we gonna respond to these plans? We've never been able to do anything to this extent in the planning space. So it's really exciting. And in fact, Jim Rollison, who heads Ready for the IADC and I were talking about yesterday, okay, we also need to sort of pull all these plans together in some sort of coherent sort of look at the state from sort of the regional view. So all of that's coming. So you'll hear more about that probably maybe a little bit in June, but more than likely more in September, in December. We are planning to have all the regional partners share their plans with each other in a cohort. But then we're also talking about maybe a public event where these plans are shared publicly to anyone in the state who might want to attend and participate. So lots happening in the planning space right now around arts and culture, and it's gonna be really exciting. Again, we're gonna have an exciting opportunity to have this work done on our behalf, which we never have been able to do with our budget situation. So any questions? I know I have mentioned from time to time in commission meetings that this is happening, but I wanted to take a moment again, just where we are to talk about it. Yes.
Will the public event be online or will that be in person?
You know what, Greg, don't know yet, but I think in the spirit of making it as accessible as possible, we might want to think about that option, so. But, yes,
So you can give us an example of one of the moonshot ideas that's floating out there.
Oh, yeah, so. Yeah, actually, that is a great question, and I sort of omitted a step that I will go back and mention, because actually it speaks to your question, and that is. The funding was announced in January. IEDC was anxious to see some projects, to get some projects out there. So they went ahead and opened the opportunity for regions to propose projects. And what we saw from that first tranche of proposals were not really what we were thinking about when we were, again, putting ourselves sort of in Lily's shoes for a moment, what they were thinking about when we were talking about transformation. So that's when we recommended that they take a moment, invest in some planning dollars in the regions, and then reopen the project proposal process. So Renee, to your question, it's a fuzzy, right? How would we define transformational? And to my mind, how I'm thinking about transformational is if you look back in 10 years or 15 years, did that project change the game as it relates to arts and culture in a particular region? So I've got examples in my head that I'd like to see happen in some of these regions, but I think that's why I think the planning process is so critical here. 50, really 60 years of underinvestment in arts and culture in the state of Indiana. When you announce a $60 million moonshot opportunity, it's no surprise that communities are really challenged to think about moonshot thinking, right? So we are kind of we are reaping the results of a history of underinvestment in this space. It's really hard for arts and cultural entities, or just communities working with arts and cultural entities to think about how can we transform our region with arts and culture. So yes, Chad.
I was asked if there would be consideration on Ready 2.0 that funded a project that was primarily arts centric and would fit into the category of transformational. Has there been any consideration to backfill? I don't know if that's the right word,
Yes.
but to
There
take
has been,
those,
yes.
because those dollars haven't rolled out as fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen in a couple of regions where they have gone ahead and moved forward on something that they thought about for arts and culture and they decided to fund it. So, we're seeing some of that happening. What's really, we're seeing a lot of exciting things, and we're just at the very cusp of this at the moment. But what we're hearing from our regional development authority folks, who many of whom have no experience with art and culture, are like, oh my goodness, I did not realize that there were all these assets in my region. All these creative people, all these creative organizations, all this really cool thing happening that with $60 million, although it sounds like a lot, when you're talking about 15 regions and sort of moonshots, there may not be enough funding to fund something in every region possibly. But at the end of the day, the value of the planning process for these regions, we think is just going to be invaluable as it relates to sort of thinking about what they're going to be able to do in the arts and culture space in the future. Laurie, I get it.
Well, just a question going back to your comment about we have 15 regions, we have 11. It is really a question about how they derive those 15. I mean, not a second, I'm sure a lot of thought went into that, but are they ultimately the right regions to spark the kind of ideas that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes.
Looking for.
Yeah.
Is that potentially something that could shift around as we go?
That's a great question. And in fact, I was at the kickoff for the Columbus, for the sort of the Columbus area, planning process, and they kept saying, why can't we have Brown County? Because Brown County is not in their region. So in that particular case, good for them, the same consulting firm is doing Columbus that is doing the Bloomington area, which also includes Brown County. So there'll be an opportunity to sort of do some cross-pollination. But every state agency has a different region, and every state agency determines their region in some mysterious way. I mean, according to Lewis, you know, my predecessor, they sat around a map and just drew lines, you know, when the IEC established its regions back in the early 90s. So I'm gonna guess that there was some, since they have done that most recently, I would presume that obviously there's a solid rationale. But to your point, Lori, yes, it doesn't always map out. They weren't selecting these regions based on the arts and culture assets.
Yeah,
And
right.
yeah, they were based on it's an economic development initiative, so they developed those regions.
So, second question.
Yes.
Our 11 regions span the whole state, just like your 15.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm sure already looking at where is there
Yes.
that kind of overlap where
Yes.
we could be
Yes.
encouraging people to think a little more broadly.
Yes.
That's how they.
Yes.
And maybe the Brown County, Columbus.
Way to think about that. Again, a lot of the regional partners are active in this process right now. They've been key in helping identify assets, local relationships, get people to the table.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they've been huge. Any other questions about that?
What is the likely project grants would be awarded?
Great question, Dave. That is a moving target. Last I chatted with, Jim, I think we're gonna probably be looking at sometime maybe in summer that it would open for the first time again. It's our intention to have the planning process be substantially underway in every region before that submission opportunity. So it has been a fascinating experience to work with IEDC. We have every detail of our programs buttoned up before things launch. We just do things differently. We do things differently in our world. So it has been interesting to ride along with IEDC that takes a more flexible approach. So it's been one learning. It's been one of many learnings. Such a diplomatic. Yeah. The embrace of the arts. I mean, with IEDC It's been really fantastic. I mean, this is a new space for us. And so we're delighted to, again, for the opportunity to come along. And we're so grateful that the endowment is making this investment. So it's gonna be a game changer. But Renee, you realize now that I fudged and really didn't answer the question. And there's a reason for that. I'm happy. Let's sidebar and I can talk about some things that I'm thinking about, but I wanna, been very careful in these conversations with regions to not seed thoughts or, put out too many, hey, you should think about this. Cause again, we want it to be a grassroots sort of asset-based.
Probably not like splash pads.
Yeah, not splash pads, not a boat ramp with a stage on it, so I'll tell you that. So not a boat ramp with a stage, yeah, so that's a no, yeah. Or your great HVAC, redo for your, so not that, so. Yeah, okay, no question, all right.
Thank you. Next up is our Regional Arts Partnership Consortium report. Sherry.
I'm gonna start and then my partner in crime will maybe fill in if I miss some marks. So yeah, the very first thing I want to say is how much regional partners who are beginning to have this relationship in the READY program and work with the consultants and with all the other entities involved, how much it's appreciated that Maya has been our champion at all of these regions to say, talk to your regional arts partners, get them involved. They know the region. And most of our region is the same, except for one. We don't have Putnam County in the READY. They're not in that, they're in ours, but not theirs. And the fact that, yes, for them to understand what the arts and cultural assets are in the regions, they don't have a clue. And I just went through, we just started that process and it's like, well, we don't even have this listed or this listed or this, so by pulling us in and I'm not saying they're reluctant, but I think they've needed a lot of push and encouragement to remind, oh yeah, we're out here and we do have valuable knowledge. And the fact that the planning process was introduced as, oh, wouldn't this be a great idea to plan before we pull in all these? Because what happens in regions, you get your pet project and you get, oh, isn't this wonderful? And then they don't get funded because no, they're not as moonshot as they should be or whatever. So appreciate Maya's support on every level in that respect. I really appreciate it. And I'm anxious to get our boots on the ground and work with this project. As you might guess, Maya and Eric have covered a lot of what the partners are all about right now. And that is obviously our 4 grant programs, the AOS and the APS. Deadlines just happened Tuesday at midnight. I was watching my phone, because it's just, it's always such a crazy time and you're pulling for everybody in your region, and so they're in and we're now, in addition to those 800 and some hours that have already been spent, we will probably be spending at least that much in the next few days as we review those grants for completeness and do all the work that needs to be done. I'm lucky, I have a small region. Some of my colleagues across the state have a lot of applications to go through. And but it's such a wonderful 2 programs. It's brings such joy, to be able to push those through and say, okay, here we go, ready to be reviewed. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're reviewing a lot of grants and making sure everything's good. Do we need modifications from our APSs, whatever. And then we've already selected our panels. And so the next thing will be assigning panels to those particular grants. I'm in a fun situation where we combined Region 12, Region 10, and Region 6. We did that in the last grant cycle also. So we work together with our panels because we have fewer grants. And so it kind of balances out the panels across the state. And so we'll be, signing our first readers, second readers, and doing all that stuff over the coming weeks. Training this next week. So partners will be sitting in on those training sessions as our panelists are being trained and that way, you know, they know we're all on the same page and they can ask us the questions that they might have. So that's basically what we're doing right now and what we will be doing until the end of April, when it all starts again. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the next cycle for APS to have a fall cycle. I think that will be real interesting because that not only means we may have people who decided to wait, it may be that people who don't get funded in the spring try again in the fall. Or I have a small arts organization who didn't get their application in. So they will have the opportunity to maybe with some project money for some of the work they've done because for some reason they didn't get their grant. That's why I was down one this year. I was like, oh my gosh. And they're small and they're volunteer and I know things happen. So anyway, I'm real anxious to see what happens in the fall. So we're just working to making sure financials are correct for our AOSs, that they've got the right forms in. There's just so many components to that application. If you haven't looked at it before, it's pretty comprehensive and you can miss things and you can upload the wrong things. But all in all, and I'm real excited to have another organization in my region, Terre Haute Symphony Association, who has now worked so hard on their programming and their money that they've elevated into the next tier. So they're now, and I won't get to review them because they'll go on to the IAC. So such good work and such hard work and such comprehensive work is being done out there in our regions with our grantees. I really think, obviously the most important thing that we talked about at our partners meeting on Thursday was how we can support, and be advocates with the state agency to say, hey, we need the money. We're too valuable. We do too much in this state, and our rural counties are being served where they wouldn't be served with some of the budget cuts that have been recommended. So we're ready to do whatever we can to advocate. So I think that's basically all. Mila, you have anything else to add?
Thank you so much. You were very thorough. I think that covered most of it. I just want to echo your thanks to Maya just for encouraging the economic development agencies to get us involved with the process. I'm also involved with my region. And then just a shout out to Eric for all of his help. I know all of us regional partners have just been calling him frequently and emailing with lots of questions, and he's been wonderful. So thank you, Eric. So yeah, we're busy reviewing the applications and making sure they're all eligible and moving them on to the next step before the panelist training. And I will say, I think most of us are pretty happy about the change to just have the AOS live panels. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, it's a relief to not have to coordinate the APS live panels this year. So that'll be a great change, I think. Thank you all so much.
And I just wanted to also, I forgot to do that, didn't forget, I was planning to do it, is that Eric has just come on and done a powerhouse job. And he is so quick to respond, and as are all of the IAC staff. If there's a question, when you get locked out of the grant system, Austin's right there saying, okay, because I've done that. It's because I don't put my glasses on and I'm trying to. Anyway, we just appreciate everybody from the, it's such a great partnership. And I hope it doesn't go away ever, because of funding or whatever, because I think the eyes and ears out across the state, and then it always in good communication with the IAC staff, I think it makes for a wonderful state of the arts in our state. So thanks, that's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Rounding the corners to the end, folks. We have no items from the consent agenda that move to the full agenda, so we'll pass by that. Is there Does anyone besides me have any old business or new business to come before the,
I
yes?
just have one thank you, I said earlier when I was talking about reviewers. Andre, Stephanie Bendler, and Austin have worked tirelessly on getting those 130 plus reviewers ready to go. And Austin in particular, this being his first time going through this cycle, has done an incredible job getting supplier forms out to all of those people, managing that intake form. It's been a ton of work and continues to be, so I just wanna express my gratitude to Andre and his team for all the work that they've done on the reviewers. It's been really.
It is really also wonderful to hear from the field that what we experience with the commission staff holds true for all of the regional partners and everyone out in the field. So thank you. You guys, as I said before, it is difficult to sit in this uncertainty, but you guys continue to do great, thoughtful work for the arts in Indiana. So thank you for that. Okay, I just want to make sure everyone has the dates for the remainder of our meetings this calendar year and locations. June 13th will be in Indianapolis. As we discussed at dinner, we were hoping to be at the zoo, but it's also the day of Jubilation, so we will have to fund that idea to later.
You can get us into Jubilation, right? You can get us into Jubilation, right?
Just have them reschedule Jubilation.
Not in Central Indiana, enormous fundraiser that sells out like 5 minutes after they post the
Yes.
tickets, so. Much like the capybara experience, it sold out as soon as they posted.
Take care of it.
So that's the June 13th, and then we will be in South Bend on September 5th. And December 12th, we will be back in Indianapolis, hopefully at the zoo. All right,
Just as a reminder, or maybe not a reminder, because I'm saying it for the first time, as you can guess, based on our discussion today, we've got a lot going on, and June is gonna be where we're gonna sort out largely most of this, right? So those of you who are on committees, buckle up. There'll be materials to read and we'll want you to engage with those, and those meetings will likely not be an hour, right? We will be quick and concise as we are. But Austin will make sure that the meeting invites reflect at least an hour and a half hold. And we'll want folks to engage, depending on your committee, with the materials in advance. And we reserve the right to call a committee meeting in advance if we need to do some pre-work in an area before we get to the business meeting. And expect that the quarterly business meeting will also may not be longer necessarily, but there will be a lot going on, and we will no doubt have folks from the public at that meeting, as we often do for our announcements. So
because there's some, I mean, there may be some very big
yes,
policy.
they're gonna be
Considerations to wrestle with.
Yes, there will be, there very well be some really significant decisions we're gonna have to make. So, everybody, happy table.
Thank you, that's helpful. Also want to thank the staff. You guys do a great job of making sure you don't assume we remember what we might have talked about previously. You do a very gentle and loving, I'll give you the gentle reminder that this is where that program has been and come from, so thank you for that, and it's great to have the heads up about what is coming for the next couple months for us. You have something, Greg?
I had a question, but we can probably look this up, but I was curious, because you mentioned IEDC is in the same vertical.
Yes.
Would we get the list of the other?
Yes.
I'm happy to send that out.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would be helpful knowledge.
Yes, they're right there.
Great.
I had to say very quick, speaking as someone who shall serve in public place. I wrote down all the dates in September and December. I assume that we'll be following, well, which I mean you, will be following the same process of recommending people.
Yes.
As commissioners, and then, of course, the business office, whatever we want to do, but is it also the case that any of us can help?
Absolutely.
Especially the regions that.
Yes. Absolutely. We would love to have recommendations for folks. We have yet to receive directive from, our vertical about how we're to handle commission appointments. So that is something we're still waiting on. But in the meantime, if you know of folks from your region that you think would be a good it. Just let us know, yes, please, pass it on to me.
Anything else?
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, we are adjourned as of, what is the time? 11:14. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.